All right, everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Martin's World podcast. Guys, before I get into introducing today's guest, I'd like to just remind you that if you want to support the show, if you want to support the fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland, you can do so by signing up to the patreon.com/Martin's World, or you can also make a donation in the form of Bitcoin on a link found over on martinsworld.ie. So, guys, today's guest is none other than Karren Gray. Karren Gray is the mother of Murray. Murray is 8 years of age and they live over in Scotland. And Murray suffers with a rare form of epilepsy known as Doose Syndrome, which is medicine resistant. They've been unable to successfully treat his seizures up until they got access to cannabis medicines. Now, Karren has been campaigning over in Scotland for over 2 years and is still campaigning today. Only just today, actually, her son Dean took to the campaign as well, where he delivered a letter to Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister there in Scotland, the call on the government to get the NHS to fund Murray's medicine as they would for any other medicines. Karren has even gone as far as travelling over to Holland and having to sneak the cannabis oil back into the country and had to give it to her son illegally. So no mother should have to go through that at all. Karren shares with me that and more stories throughout this interview. So guys, sit back, blaze up, and enjoy this interview with Karren Gray. Karren, welcome along to Martin's World. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on as a guest. I've been following your story for quite a while now. Yours and your son's story. Murray is he's 6 years old now, is he? Or
He's eight.
he's
He's eight
eight
now.
years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been following his story since he's been about six, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose if you wouldn't mind, tell me just a little bit about yourself and Murray's journey and where it all started for you.
Yeah. So it started because Murray started having seizures, and they got to the stage where they were really, really, really bad and required medication. And I'd actually heard about Hannah Deacon, her little boy Alfie, and how she'd sourced cannabis oils from the Netherlands. And I thought, wow, cannabis oil, wow, could this actually help? So I started looking into it. Murray got put on medication at the hospital and he'd went into non-convulsive status. So he was in hospital, lying in a bed, not able to do anything. He was basically out of it. They were just pumping him full of like rescue medication, trying to stop the hundreds of seizures he was having. It was just an absolute nightmare. So if you fast forward, obviously I'd asked for cannabis medicine at the hospital, and the only thing they could give us was Epidiolex, which is a CBD isolate. And we were really, really lucky that we actually got it. I was really, really chuffed to know that they helped us to get that. And it did help a wee bit. It did reduce the seizure length. So we thought, right, obviously CBD is going to help, but he was still having seizures. He was in a wheelchair right at this point. He'd put on 2 stone in weight due to steroids that they'd given him. He had a blood disorder as well because of one of the medications. They needed blood transfusion. So, things weren't really great for him. And we were practically living in hospital. So the Epidiolex helped a bit, but he was still obviously having seizures, chronic diarrhea as well from the Epidiolex. He was on 6 mils a day. So that probably explains why he was having the diarrhea. And then it just stopped working. So the start of 2019, we were back in hospital. He was back in status. He was getting tube fed. He wasn't with us at all. And he just got worse and worse. Like his muscle tone went, his breathing started declining. And I was begging the hospital to get him this Vegelite from Holland, because it was now legally they could prescribe it because the law changed in the November before. And they said, we can't do it, we can't do it. So I ended up going to Holland and finding a doctor, taking all Murray's medical notes, finding a doctor that would prescribe it. And I mean, that was just unbelievable. When he started writing the prescription, it was just amazing. And we collected the oil, came back, basically smuggled it through. Just ridiculous if you think about it, because it's a medicine.
Yeah.
And started giving it to him in hospital, and he started getting better and better. And so this was the March 2019. By the May 2019, he was going downhill again, as we've seen all the time. But this time he was walking about the doctor's office. He wasn't lying in the hospital bed. So we thought, right, this is actually doing something. So we came back and we added in Bedica, which is added THC, which then took Murray up to a ratio of about 20-1. So 1 part THC to 20 part CBD. And it was just unbelievable. The seizures got less. And the last seizure he had was June 2019. And there's no doubt in my mind, or anyone else that knows us and knows Murray, that it was the cannabis oils that actually stopped the seizures, because it was just completely unbelievable. So we've been, obviously, it's been over 2 years now since he started taking these oils, and he's just amazing. He's not in a wheelchair anymore. We don't have to put a protective hat on him. There's no diarrhea. He's on like just over 2 mils a day of this oil. He's at school full time, and he's just absolutely loving life. He's just a picture of health, basically.
So he's on 2 mils of the Bedrolite as opposed to the 6 mils of the Epidiolex that he would have been on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's obviously a lot more effective. And you said it's a 20-1 THC to CBD, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, that's right, CBD to THC, yeah, and it's because we mix, we just add in a very small amount of the THC to the Bedrolite, which has a very small amount of THC in it.
Yeah. And when you smuggled that back the first time, was there any issues? Did you encounter any problems at the border with authorities at all?
No, because the Dutch, the Transvaal pharmacy gave us a letter, and the Dutch government will allow you to take that oil out the country. It's only when you come back to the UK that they would obviously take off you, but I obviously didn't say anything because I knew they would take it off me, and that'd be really stupid. So so I went over 3 times. At the time, I was actually filming a documentary with the BBC with another lady with a son that's really bad epilepsy as well, and both the children needed oil. So we basically filmed this documentary with BBC, knowing that it was not going to come out for another 3 months, and we did it to highlight the problems that we're all having. Unfortunately, it never helped, but we didn't know that at the time. We didn't even know that the oil was going to help Murray at the time, but lo and behold, it did. So after that, we managed to get somebody that I know who has a daughter with epilepsy as well. He gave me the name of a private neurologist that I was so grateful for, and she started writing the prescriptions for Murray free of charge. She's never charged me a single penny. And after the documentary came out, an importer came forward and offered to bring the oil in as well. So, and do the Home Office licenses and everything. So it's all completely legal now. But the third month when we went over, I think I brought back 20 odd bottles because I knew that this documentary was coming out and it would be more, it'd be difficult the next time. So I basically brought in enough for about 3 months supply. But really lucky that the importer came forward and helped. So it was all legal. Trouble is, we're still having to pay for it as well. That's another thing. And there's been so much campaigning, we've got lots of MPs on board. There's actually been 100 MPs have signed a letter to Boris Johnson to say, look, these kids really need urgent funding for this. Like they're all running out of money. We can't fundraise because of COVID. And we need help, but nothing's happened. Nothing at all.
It's not as if there's already kids after being approved funding for their cannabis medicines by the NHS, hasn't there? I believe Billy Caldwell would be one of those kids whose medicine is getting funded now. His mother no longer has to fund it. So for yourself right now, to fund the medicine, you're relying on the support of the public. I believe there's like GoFundMe's and things like that up there.
Yeah, there is, and like family as well. Like family are basically helping us out quite a lot to pay for it as well. So we are really lucky, but I mean, there's people out there that aren't as lucky as what we are, and their kids really need, they really need this medicine and they can't afford it. So that's wrong as well.
Yeah, it's something similar that's happening here in Ireland as well, where parents are finding themselves in situations where they have to pay for this medicine. Some of them are lucky enough to have the Irish government. You've met Vera Toomey, I believe. I think I was at that Limerick event you might have been at as well. Yeah, above that organised by Leisha Maher. But Vera has to hand out, I think it's like nearly €10,000 every 3 months, and the government will give it back afterwards. But then there's other patients out there, another patient by the name of Kenny Tynan, and he's after having to basically hand back his license because he can't afford to get the medicine anymore from the Bedrocan who he was getting it off of. I think he's now gone to getting it illegally, whether he's grown his own or somebody else has grown it for him. But that's where he's at now because he can't afford to pay it.
Yeah,
For
that's just
yourself, I suppose one of the other things that I'm aware of is not only is the money an issue for yourselves, but also now Brexit is causing a major problem for yourselves in that the Bedrocan medicine should have been cut off actually last January, but they've extended it on compassionate grounds until next January. So
yeah.
you've like maybe 7 months now until this supply is going to be cut off. What's been done by the British government? I think is it Matt Hancock, the health secretary over there. Is he doing anything at all to assist you with this
Well,
doomsday approaching?
yeah, the Department of Health have actually been quite good, you know, letting us know what's happening. I have to say they have been really good doing that. And we know that they are corresponding with the importers that we use. I have a pharmacy in a facility in Scotland, and the Transvaal have agreed to come over and make the oil in the facility in Scotland. But there's obviously so much red tape and everything, it's not final yet. So we're still very, very nervous until, you know, we hear that, yes, this is all set up and this is going to happen. But I'm led to believe that it will happen. It's just not been finalised yet. So yeah, we just have to wait. So obviously this it's been extended to January, which is good. So we've still got another few months, and hopefully this facility will be set up by then.
Yeah, you would think with GW Pharmaceuticals and all that they've been doing over there that the process, say, for Transvaal should be like it's the path should be already paved, is kind of what I'm saying. That the
Yeah,
rules and regulations they should have been adhered to by GW, and it should be just apply whatever is applied to them, and it shouldn't be taking this long, especially when it's something so time sensitive. In that, you know, again, January rolls around. If you're cut off from your supply, if the Transvaal aren't able to fulfill the delivery of your medicine, like you could be stuck in a very, like, geez, I couldn't, I don't even want to think of what that could be like for you, but it would be absolutely awful.
it would be. I mean, yeah, I mean, even for like GW, they've got licenses to grow the cannabis
That's
as
right.
well as obviously extract the oil. You know, the company over here, they're not going to be growing it. You know, they're going to be buying the flower from Bedrocan, exactly the same as what the Transvaal do. They buy the flower and then the Transvaal extract the oil. So they're only going to be extracting the oil over here. You know, so it should be, yeah. Yeah, we better hear soon because none of us are going to be able to relax until we hear that it's all set up.
Yeah. And can I ask, how was Murray today? Is he off at school at the moment, or?
He's at school just now. Murray is none the wiser to
Yeah.
what's going on. Murray has no clue that what's going on with the government and NHS. I mean, he's too young to understand anyway, and we wouldn't want him to know. We kind of shield him from it because, you know, we don't want him to know that his doctor's not going to prescribe this medicine that's keeping him well. I mean, how would that affect an 8-year-old? You know, how would that affect anybody? It's, you know, it's like, so yeah, he's none the wiser. All he knows is that he gets this medicine and he's happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the photos you put up when you update him and seeing that big smile across his face. Like it really is glorious to see because you can't help but think that, you know, it's thanks to the cannabis that this boy is afforded to have such a quality of life. As you say, you know,
Yeah.
going back to 2 years ago, having multiple seizures, like in each one potentially having the potential to take Murray's life, to now being 2 years seizure free. And the only thing you've been doing different is the giving him the cannabis medicines. Shame on
Yeah.
anybody who tries to get in between a patient and their medicine. This silly prohibition of cannabis, it's never actually stopped the kids getting it on the streets, but the kids who need it for the prevention of their seizures, that's where the real barrier is being put in place by prohibition. It's
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, obviously, like the government have accepted that you know cannabis is medicinal, and that's why they changed the law in 2018. And it is like a two-tier system. If you know you can go private, but it's very expensive. If you can't afford it, then what are you supposed to do? You know, I mean, there's people that are growing their own plants and things, you know, and like why not just let people do that? Why
yeah.
not just why not? I mean, they're not harming anybody. They're actually helping themselves. You know, they're healing themselves. So it doesn't make any sense at all why they won't just completely change the law.
Yeah, I really don't understand it either myself, especially when you've organizations such as, is it Carly's Amnesty, I think it's called, with the CAN card that was set up. Like, if the authorities are able to get into talks with these groups and support this idea that a patient who uses cannabis can't afford to get the private prescription, has to get it illegally, so we're going to allow them to have this card. It's such a backwards way of doing things. It's like so counterproductive. You're setting up systems in place that support, I suppose, really criminal networks, because that's who benefits mostly from the prohibition. It's the criminals who are selling cannabis, and sadly, many of them selling it to patients. I don't know if you're aware of Jeff Ditchfield and some of the work that he would have done, highlighting some of the dangers there, where patients were going out paying thousands of pounds and they were getting bottles of olive oil. And that was probably some of the better ones. There was other ones where they were getting more dangerous bottles of oil. But absolutely horrible that not much has really changed in, what is it, 3 years now since medical cannabis has been allowed in the UK, 2018, I believe it was. And nothing has changed really. I think your mic might have just moved there. I'm not too sure.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah, that's better. It sounded like you were underwater there.
Yeah, I mean, things have to change. It's just silly. It's really just absolutely silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
does it take much out of your time, like your campaigning? I see you doing an awful lot of campaigning. You dedicated a lot of time. How much of your time, I'd say, in a week, would you say that you're messaging, you know, the health secretaries, messaging the guys in the Transvaal, trying to secure this? Does this eat up a lot of your time?
It does eat up a lot of time, yeah, and especially in your mind as well, because you're constantly thinking about it. Like, although we're doing all stuff that I'm doing, like for instance, the school, Murray School can't give him his 3 o'clock dose of medicine.
Okay.
And I've had to put appeals through for that. It's actually with the Scottish Ombudsman just now. Like, the whole situation is now with the Scottish Ombudsman, because it's just silly. I mean, for you know, he has a legal private prescription,
Yeah.
and he requires this medicine at certain times, and the school are just not allowed to give it to him.
Jeez.
And it's all sort of like everybody's blaming each other. So at the moment, it's come down to this panel, Rescas, down south, that have said that Murray should come off the oil and go back on Epidiolex, that his neurologist put Murray's case to, but we don't think he actually gave Rescas the whole story, and he's ended up resigning from Murray's care. I mean, he's still working, obviously, but he's just not looking after Murray anymore because of the pressure of the situation. And it just, it infuriates you, because it may be, you may be under pressure by all this, but we're the ones that are having to fund all this money, and we haven't got a choice but to continue, giving Murray this oil, because we're too scared not to. But after seeing what he was like before, we would never want to get him to ever suffer like that again, and he won't if he keeps getting this oil.
And if I don't know, my crossing the wires, but I can remember when that was released, when Murray was dropped by his consultant. But was that the same? Was that yourself who the consultant he was giving out because you were emailing him too much, or something? He was getting too many messages from you.
Yeah, I wasn't emailing him too much. I mean, I really wasn't. And in anything, I've always tried to maintain a good relationship with our trust here, and with with all the neurologists as well, because I don't want to argue with them. I just want what's fair.
Exactly.
And the trust here have been really good. There's one of the ladies working for the trust. I mean, she always emails me back. She's actually, really nice in her emails. The trouble is that she just can't help, she says. But yeah, it's really, really infuriating. But no, I wasn't emailing him all the time. I mean, that was just nonsense.
I thought that was rather cheeky of him as well, to be saying such a thing about a patient. I think that I think it's just like on the line of breaching patient confidentiality, kind of, oh, this woman is messaging me way too much. It's like, you're incredibly worried. Your son's life is on the line. Like, forgive me if I send you like what you feel like is too many emails, but like what you're doing is you're fighting for your son's right to live a high quality life. And that's like the cannabis is not curing him of anything. It's just affording him a much better quality of life. although 2 years
Yeah.
seizure free would sound rather cured to me. It's as close to be as it can be, I'd imagine, for a person suffering with seizures to go 2 years without having one. That's quite an
Yeah.
achievement.
Exactly.
It's really backwards of him to come out and say that. And rather than talking about, maybe use the same air that came out to express this and express frustration as to why his hands are tied. Frustration to the medical profession, that the people out there who are keeping these barriers in place, rather than expressing frustration towards a mother who's the only thing she's doing is fighting for her son's life. Horrible.
Yeah.
I really don't understand it. It's kind of up there with, recently we've seen a lot of the authorities coming out giving warnings as to the dangers of kids consuming cannabis edibles. But and why aren't they using the same breath to give that warning to the government and say, hey, there's criminals out there selling cannabis edibles to kids. Put regulations in place, because we can apply an age limit if we regulate it, and it'll also
Yeah.
reduce the stigma then for the patients out there who are fighting for this medicine too.
Yeah.
It's so backwards, like the way in which these people are they're working just in spheres of ignorance. None of them want to communicate with each other. Like, really, if
Yep.
we were to remove these prohibition, it would help alleviate a lot of the problems there in the medical field, and also in the justice field as well.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like the amount of people being taken to court. I've got a friend and he's constantly getting caught, constantly getting caught with his medicine,
Yeah,
and having to go up to court. And it's just, he's like GP and his doctors know that he's using cannabis and it's absolutely helping him. He's got proof, medical proof. But he still gets arrested and taken to court, and it usually gets flung out. Well, not flung out, but they don't charge him, they accept it. But it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of public funds, having to take him to court, and it's a waste of time for him,
yeah,
and it's stressful as well. So it's completely backwards.
it
It's
really
just,
is. And Murray's medicine costs, is it £1,300 pound a month?
yeah.
Yeah. And I think the average cost of a prisoner in the UK, if memory serves correct, it's over £30,000 a year. So if Murray was old enough to get caught with cannabis, the state would have no problem of paying £30,000 to lock him up for his cannabis use, but they're not willing to pay, what is it, 13 or 14,000 pounds to supply him with a medicine that would give the same medicine that they would lock him up for.
I
Um,
know.
it really goes to show, like, that they're willing to spend £30,000 to lock a person up for cannabis use for a year, and they're not willing to pay £15,000 for a patient to get access to a medicine. These
Yep. But I know I
Good
did a cost
society.
analysis. Over a year, and it would have cost the NHS £96,000. It did cost the NHS £96,000, and that's public money, to keep Murray in hospital, to give him all the care, to give him all the medicine, to help him. And it didn't actually help. It was the cannabis that helped. And now he's not in hospital, and we're not spending the NHS isn't spending £96,000 a year. So it just doesn't make any sense at all that they won't pay. It's like 16,000 a year or something for this medicine.
Yeah,
And as opposed to the 96,000, it's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah, no, that's very true. I believe Vera Toomey brought that point up as well before, when she was fighting for the reimbursement. She talked about the number of times she had to call for an ambulance to come out to the house and to bring them to the hospital and stuff, and that all costs money. And she was like, we don't have to do this anymore. 2 years now of that's just over £180,000. So you're after saving the NHS, and you're paying for that privilege for them. It's after costing you, say, £30,000 now to prevent the cost of £180,000.
Yeah.
Shame, shame on these people. Like, really, I just don't understand how they're able to sleep at night doing the things they do. Like, we've ministers over here, our minister in charge of our national drugs policy. He's responsibility for it. He was questioned by Gino Kenny, the TD here from People
Yeah.
Before Profit, about the possibility of legalizing cannabis, because there's going to be a bill before the Irish government later this year. And Frank Fionn responded by saying, I'll absolutely not be legalizing cannabis, and I won't decriminalize it either. We're going to be taking a health-led approach to cannabis use in our society. And his health-led approach includes criminalizing people and preventing access to patients. It's just so silly.
that just doesn't make any sense. It's really, what can you say?
I know. And what way are things over there right now for yourselves with the campaign? I know with you're part of the End Our Pain group.
Yeah.
And is there any events coming up? Is there any protests planned for yourselves over the summer months?
There's not at the moment. We're still waiting for Boris Johnson to respond regarding the letter that was signed by 100 MPs. And if we don't have any luck with that, then we obviously will be doing something. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure yet though. But we've obviously got like an APPG over here for medical cannabis on prescription. So that's like a working group of MPs as well. And they are sort of pushing for this as well. Yeah. It's just infuriating that, we've got all these MPs on board and nothing's happened.
Yeah. Some of the things we've been told here is that it's while the MPs are over here for us, it's TDs, while they appear to be the ones who have the power, that quite often or not, it's actually public servants who are not elected and who retain their role, as the governments change, that these people are actually the real ones holding up. Now, I don't know if that's the same over in the UK, but over here in Ireland, we've been told this anyway, that even if our health minister wanted to legalise cannabis for patients, that he wouldn't be able to do it without the assistance of the public servants underneath him, and that these people are uncooperative or something like that, as they're saying. I think that's just a bit of passing the buck. It's not me, it's him.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, well, if you got the power, or if the people working under you, do they hold all the power?
Yeah.
Like who's the one making decisions here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really backwards. And I suppose how are you at fixed at the moment now with the funds for Murray's medicine? Is there are you okay for like the next 2 months, or is there a worry, that next month now, geez, I think my family's not able to go to, like, do you ever find yourself in that situation where you're really worried?
I worry about it all the time. Murray's dad actually is a software engineer, and he created an app called Wi-Fi Blocker. And it actually drives me mad because he sat for so many months and months doing this, on his computer. So anyway, he made this app, and that's basically what is paying for the majority of Murray's medicine each month, the sales of this app. But that's going to dry up, that's going to dry up at some point, and that's when we're going to start to really worry and struggle. But at the moment, we're okay, thankfully, and obviously we've got family helping. So I think nobody wants to see Murray go back to how he was. So.
And I think it's important just for any parents out there listening, that Wi-Fi blocker app is quite a good tool to have. So do check it out.
Just plug in his app for all.
Yeah. No, I have 2 kids myself, so I could definitely see the benefits of having a Wi-Fi blocker app. It's like, is your room cleaned? Oh no, I'm not turning off that app now.
Exactly. We turn it off for Murray actually when it's tea time, or you just wouldn't go off his iPad, so we turn it off, and it's like, oh, the server must have stopped. Oh well, I'll come on after tea. Oh dear.
Yeah, no, I'm good there that you're in a good place now anyway, and that there's no real, at least not any real financial worries there right now, and long may that continue. As well, I suppose, is there anything out there that people can do that are listening to support you outside of making donations? Is there letters to the Matt Hancock, do these help your situation? Would you encourage people to do those?
To be honest, I don't think so. I don't think anything like that's going to help. What I should actually say is that me and 3 other parents have set up a charity called Intractable, and it's what we're trying to do is raise funds to basically pay for all these private prescriptions for like the children first, and then everybody else, depending on how much funding we get. So at the moment we are doing that. We've just about got our charity status, and then we're going to start sort of hitting big companies and things to try and get quite a lot of funding so that we can pay for them to take some relief. Because I mean, we've got parents over here that are they're not able to fundraise, and they cannot afford to pay for this medicine. And there's one child that's went really, really downhill because they've run out of money, and it's horrible to see. So we decided to start this charity so that we could help parents, fund this medicine so they don't have that extra stress, because it's stressful looking after a child with epilepsy or any disability, and then you've got this added sort of financial stress on top of it. That's why we started the charity. Basically, we want to alleviate that stress from people, and we've just got to hope that when we that we do get the funds and we are able to do this. So we're just going to try.
Yeah, and if memory serves correct, is there one of the parents with the groups who actually had to, I was no, was it they sell their house in order to continue funding? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I'm just plugging in my portable there. One of the parents had to sell their house to continue to afford the oil. I think they are paying over £2,000 a month.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I mean, their daughter, they've tried changing oils and stuff, and it's the same old story, which we're seeing quite a lot, that the children just not good enough, not as good as the Dutch oils that they're on. And
I suppose that's something you could be looking at too soon. I don't know if that's something that maybe the Transvaal guys talk to Witchy, but as Murray's 8 years of age now, he could go through a bit of a growth spurt in the next couple of years. And as he gets bigger, his dosage requirement would go up as well to coincide with the growth of his body too. So the cost of your medicine then would go up with that dosage too. I think that's something that Vera talked about too with Ava. As Ava went from being like kind of 4 or 5 up to being 6 or 7, they noticed that she was requiring a little bit more of a dosage there, which means the cost of the medicine then was going up as a result. Is that something that has happened to yourselves yet? Have you seen Murray's dosage having to go up in accordance with his weight going up?
Yeah, no, and because when Murray first started on the oils, he was still really overweight due to the bloating he put on with the steroids. So Murray was 30 kilograms at the time. Presently, Murray's about 28.5 kilograms, so he's still not at the same weight as what he was when we started. So we think that's why he's not needed extra oil, because his weight has come down. He's lost weight. So yeah, but he's at a healthy weight, I should say, as well. He's now at a very healthy weight, a normal weight. But that is something that will happen, that we're just going to have to keep an eye on, and we're like obviously well aware of it. I do check his weight just to see,
And your charity, the Intractable, it's called. Is that online now at the moment on social media on its website?
Yeah, we're on Twitter and we're on Facebook as well. We need to raise £5,000. We're a charitable company, so we're a limited charitable company at the moment, and to get charity status and an actual charity number, we need to have £5,000, and we're literally £700 away from getting this £500, and then we can apply for the charity status, and then we can apply, once we've got the charity number, we can apply to so many different things to get funding. So that's where we're at the moment with that. But it's just been taking quite a bit to get it set up, and due to COVID and trying to get bank accounts, everything's just so much harder at the moment because of COVID. But we're getting there, so it's good. And we've got our bank account set up finally. That was a rigmarole trying to get that.
I'm delighted to hear this. It sounds like a great charity, and I hope people stick their hands deep into their pockets and get behind you. And hopefully, I hope it's a service that goes out of existence in certain, if you get me, that the NHS actually step in and do what they're supposed to be doing, so that your charity then can kind of say, well, we don't need to do this anymore.
I know, exactly. But I mean, we're just going to plough ahead with it and see what happens. And I suppose in a way it is kind of shaming the government, isn't it? That for parents that are already trying to fund for their children, look after their children, work, do everything else, are actually having to create a company and a charity to raise funds,
just for simple medicine.
Just given us, really.
And you encountered some problems yourself before on social media when raising awareness about Murray and what you're going through and stuff, with Facebook removing posts and things like that. Is that, I suppose that is problematic. Has that caused you much upset, I suppose?
they delete something in you, you disagree with it, and 9 out of 10 times they put it back because they obviously they've got no right to take anything like that down because it's the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and it's highlighting things. So yeah, the GoFundMe, I think various people's GoFundMe pages were taken down, and because you had the word cannabis in it, and we've all had to sort of alter it, but it's just crazy because it's legal cannabis prescriptions, it's legal. So they haven't actually got any right to take it down because they're not doing anything unlawful. It's all legal.
And that was
It's infuriating.
GoFundMe actually took it down, the GoFundMe themselves.
It was, yeah, but to be fair, they've actually been really good. They did reinstate it. I think they've done it to me a couple of times, and they have reinstated it, and they have worked with me and emailed me and got it sorted quite quickly. So, yeah.
It's still problematic that you encounter this at all, just because, the medicine you use is also the same thing that the media love to demonize so much.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, thanks very much for taking the time, Karren, to come and speak with me today. I really appreciate it. I can't help but, just be overly frustrated by the level of ignorance that still exists out there. Sorry, I think we were breaking up there. The connection was going bad.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and we've just got to hope that things change. But I think with everybody campaigning over here, there's like We the Undersigned, we've got Seed the Future, there's a guy called Outlaw. Everybody's doing lots of things to try and challenge the law, because the law is wrong. The law is wrong. It's wrong. So yeah, hopefully good things start to happen. Obviously with COVID, that's just kind of messed up everything, because obviously there's a pandemic and just 100%'s been put into that. But let's hope as we sort of come out of this pandemic that good things are going to happen, and things will change.
Yeah, fingers crossed anyway. Yeah. Well, Karren, thanks very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to get down and sit and talk with you today. If you have any further updates in the future, if you'd ever like to come back on, I would more than happily have you on here. I would happily try to support your campaign in any way possible. So if there's anything at all I can do to help, you know where to find me.
Oh, thanks very much. It's lovely talking to you as well.
And there you go, guys. That was Karren Gray, a cannabis activist for Murray Gray, her son, 8-year-old, who suffers with epilepsy in Scotland. Again, thanks very much to Karren for taking the time out of her day to come and speak with me. And thanks everybody for tuning in and listening to this episode of the podcast. Apologies, guys, for a few edits that had to be made there because of some technical difficulties we encountered during the interview. There was a few little hiccups there with the Wi-Fi along the way. But again, powerful stuff there from Karren. And hopefully very soon, the battle that she's been fighting for so long will come to an end, and Murray will be given the rightful proper access to cannabis that he deserves, with it being covered by the NHS and the family being able to focus on being a family again. So guys, thanks very much for tuning in to today's episode of the podcast. I'll be back with more episodes very soon. So stay blazed out there, guys. Keep her lit. Much love. Peace.